right, thank you so much for that. So next I'm going to invite Caitlin on stage. And Caitlin is also a patient and an amazing musician who's written a song about endo. So after she shares a very powerful story, we're going to hear that song that she wrote. So I'm very excited to introduce her to all of you.
Hi everybody. It is an honor for me to be able to speak here today. I think it's important now more than ever for all endometriosis sisters to tell their story and tell all the gut-wrenching pain that they've gone through and the embarrassing symptoms that they have to tell over and over, and all the emergency room visits and the doctors that they see, doctor after doctor, and just every woman's intimate battle with this awful disease. So when I was 15, I got my first cycle. I was in school, I got a blinding pain in my pelvis, I ran to the nurse's office, and I was holding my stomach and crying, and I was like, I've never felt pain like this before. And my parents called my grandparents, and my grandfather came to pick me up, which to me at 15 was mortifying. So I was like, oh God, there's a man here to come pick me up. But when I got to my grandparents' house, my grandmother immediately knew what it was. She had had the same symptoms herself before. So immediately she grabbed the heating pad and she came and she rubbed my head and she was telling me all these stories of her and her mother and all the things they had gone through. And all I kept thinking was, I don't want all these things to happen. I want to be normal. I want to be like all my friends. I want to be a teenager. I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be a model and walking down the runway and fabulous. That's what I wanted. And I didn't want to do all this and be the sick girl. I didn't know how I could do it. And when I was 19, my grandmother told me she had an appointment with Dr. Elliot Greenberg, who in Massachusetts was her GYN. And when I went to him, by the time I got there, I was terrified. I was shaking so bad. And during the exam, I was vulnerable. I was just absolutely scared. And he told me, you know what, I know where your pain is from. I know how to help you. And he said, but you need a surgery. And I was frozen. I was completely and utterly frozen. And my grandmother immediately, because she was in the room, she grabbed a hold of me and she said, you know what, I've had a surgery before, I know what to do. And she said, it's all gonna be okay. And after my first surgery, I don't think I felt physically better, but every irrational doubt that I had ever had in my mind was confirmed. It was, okay, I'm not crazy, I'm not a burden, I know what I feel and I know my body. And I had endometriosis on every single organ in my abdomen. And they diagnosed me with stage 4 endometriosis. But my battle continued. So my 5th surgery was actually with Dr. Tomer Sechkin. I had a fibroid removal and a uterine suspension. The surgery was performed in New York at Lenox Hill, and it actually allowed me to get pregnant with my son. My 6th surgery, so when I found out I was pregnant, I was a nervous wreck. I was told it was an 85% chance I would never get pregnant without IVF treatment. And I was like, you know what, I'm having a miracle baby, it's happening. I ate every single food you could take, every vitamin, I did everything I could possibly do. And when I got my 5th month ultrasound, I thought, I'm so excited to be a mom, rubbing my belly, and the doctors told me that I had so much scar tissue that it was really hard to see the baby and see the lining of my uterus. I had some placental leaks, so I was concerned that I had a condition called placenta accreta. So they scheduled an MRI for September 4th, and on August 26th, I was in my apartment, and I got a stabbing pain, and I passed out. The ambulance came, and the paramedics showed up, and they told me that my blood pressure was 55/30, and that if they moved me, I would bottom out. So I waited for more paramedics to come, give me the right type of drugs to bring it up a little bit, and by the time I got to the hospital, my son's heart rate was 50 beats per minute. I got rushed back for an emergency C-section, and when the doctors learned that my uterus had ruptured, my son was in distress. It took the doctors 25 minutes to be able to gain IV access because I had lost so much blood volume, I was bleeding internally. They had to do an IO, or they had to drill beneath my shin bone to be able to gain IV access. My body was weak. My body was beyond weak. It was shutting down. And as I laid there on the table, I thought about my grandmother, and I thought about all the stories that she had told me, and I mustered every ounce of strength that I had, and I had to make sure that my son would be okay. But unfortunately, my heart did stop that day. I woke up in surgical ICU only to find out that it had been 2 days. I had to get to my son. I just had to get to him. I was so weak that it took me 2 more days before I finally saw my son's face. He had suffered 2 brain hemorrhages from lack of oxygen. He couldn't eat, speak, swallow, breathe, or even move on his own. I knew my little man was a fighter, but after 2 long weeks, I started to wonder if I was being selfish. I wondered what kind of life my son was going to live. I spoke with the doctors one last time, and I had to make the heartbreaking decision to take my son off life support. It felt like a piece of me was taken. It felt like I had nothing left, and I was just empty. I felt truly broken. I held him in my arms, and I promised him his mom would never stop living and pursuing my dream no matter what. I would always trace my dream of music. Years passed by, and day after day, I got a little easier to cope. I knew my little man was watching over me, but with a vengeance, endometriosis came back. The same enemy that had caused me to lose my son and had taken my life before was back. This time, both my ovaries were covered in endometriosis, and I had no choice but to remove them. I felt like my heart was breaking again because all I ever wanted was to have more children. And I kept thinking, what am I gonna do now? I have my career, but I just want a family. Unfortunately, this disease is tenacious and relentless, and I underwent my 13th surgery this last summer of 2019. After getting an oophorectomy, my symptoms came back, and I was in South Carolina. I was on stage, and I ran out of the air. I was rushed home to Las Vegas, and I spent 9 days in the emergency room. They told me I had a pulmonary blood clot. They couldn't see it, but it was there somewhere. They put me on blood thinners, and I did get a little better, but something I knew was still wrong. I reached out, and my husband actually reached out to Dr. Cameron Najat in California at Stanford University. And after doing a transvaginal ultrasound, he told me it seemed as though there was a piece of ovary that was left behind. So this piece of ovary had actually developed into a 6-centimeter endometrioma that was made up of 3 separate endometriomas inside of it, and it was attached to my intestines and was putting pressure on my diaphragm, which was the reason I was having issues breathing. This weight that endometriosis puts on us has broken me over and over. And I started a nonprofit organization myself called Enemy Story, where I wanted to give my endometriosis sisters an outlet and a place to vent and to share every little piece of comfort that they can offer to another sister, to just feel better about the things that you're going through so you don't feel alone. I wrote my song Invincible that I'm about to sing for you, to unite my endo sisters, to give my pain purpose. I began changing my diet, my lifestyle, and now I know I'm a survivor. As I promised to my little man, I will continue pursuing my dream of being a singer. I felt crazy, I felt broken, invisible, weak, and alone. And all these stories I have spoken of tonight are not only my own personal wars with this disease, but I pray every one of them speaks to a woman who is suffering in the UK, in Canada, in the US, and to all the endo warriors that are here tonight. I hope that by telling my story, I have inspired you to share your own. It's time to speak up. You're not alone. We are human, and you are not crazy, and you are not burdens. Trust when something isn't right in your body. You are strong. You are endo strong.
Yes, girl.